Scene script: have you ever considered the vastness of God's knowledge? How intimately does he know us? In the first 6 verses of Psalm 139, we are introduced to a God who sees us for who we truly are, not as we present ourselves to the world, but as we exist in our most candid moments. This is a God who knows us in our entirety, in our completeness, a God who understands us better than we understand ourselves. Consider this: you have searched me, Lord, and you know me. Not a single aspect of our lives is hidden from him. God knows when we sit and when we rise. He discerns our every action, our every move. He perceives our thoughts from afar, understanding our motivations, our fears, our joys, and our sorrows. Even more astounding, he discerns our going out and our lying down. He is familiar with all our ways. Before a word is on our tongue, God knows it completely. Imagine that before we even utter a word, he knows what we are about to say. There is no pretense or facade that can hide our true selves from him. God's knowledge of us is intimate, profound, and all-encompassing. He hems us in, behind and before, and lays his hand upon us. His presence is not a distant, detached observation, but an intimate, loving involvement. This knowledge, this understanding that God has of us, is too wonderful, too lofty for us to attain. We can't fully comprehend the magnitude of God's omniscience. We can only stand in awe of it. When we meditate on these verses, we realize that we are fully known, fully seen, and fully loved by God. It's a comforting and humbling realization. It's a reminder that we are never alone, never forgotten. Such knowledge of God is too wonderful and lofty for us to fully comprehend. It's a divine mystery that invites us into a deeper relationship with our Creator, who knows us better than we know ourselves. Are you enjoying the video so far? Have the insights into God's omniscience and imminent exploration of his omnipresence sparked your curiosity? If the answer is yes, we have a small request. If you find this content enlightening, please give this video a like. Your support helps us continue to delve into these fascinating topics and share them with you. And while you're at it, consider subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you'll be the first to know when we release new content just like this. It's a journey into understanding, a quest for knowledge, a deep dive into the profound mysteries of God's nature. And we'd love to have you with us every step of the way. Now let's continue our journey into Psalms 139, exploring the omnipresence of God. Can we ever escape from God's presence? Let's delve into the heart of Psalm 139, particularly verses 7 to 12, to explore this question. Imagine, if you will, the concept of omnipresence. It's a big word, isn't it? But it's an even bigger concept. It's the idea that God is everywhere, all at once. There's no corner of the universe where he isn't. There's no depth of the ocean, no height of the mountain, no breadth of the sky where he isn't. His presence permeates everything. The psalmist asks, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? It's a rhetorical question because the answer is nowhere. You cannot escape from God's presence. If we ascend to the heavens, he is there. If we make our bed in the depths of the earth, he is there. If we take flight on the wings of the dawn or settle on the far side of the sea, even there his hand will guide us, his right hand will hold us fast. His presence is not confined by geographical boundaries or physical limitations. But what about the darkness? Surely in the dark we can hide from God's sight? But the psalmist tells us, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. That's an incredible thought, isn't it? There's no such thing as darkness to God. Every shadow, every uncertainty, every fear-laden corner of our lives is as bright as day to him. He sees all, knows all, is present in all. So we come back to the question, can we ever escape from God's presence? The answer is a resounding no. But rather than sparking fear, this should instill in us a profound sense of comfort. No matter where we go, no matter what we do, we're always in the presence of God. His love surrounds us, his guidance leads us, his strength upholds us. Even in the deepest darkness, we cannot hide from God. For him, darkness is as light. Opening, how intimately involved was God in our creation? Ponder on this for a moment. The psalmist writes in verses 13 to 16 of Psalms 139, painting a picture of God as the divine craftsman, intricately weaving us together in our mother's womb. He declares, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb." This isn't a mere assembly line production. No, it's a personal, intimate and loving creation. The Creator God didn't just form our physical bodies, but also our inmost being, the essence of who we are. There's a sense of divine affection in the way God knits us together, stitch by stitch, cell by cell. Each one of us is a unique masterpiece, handcrafted by the Creator himself. Moreover, the psalmist continues, "Your eyes saw my unformed body." Before we were even fully formed, God saw us. He knew us. His gaze was upon us, not as an indifferent observer, but as a loving father, intimately involved in our formation. But it doesn't stop there. He further writes, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book, before one of them came to be." This is the God who not only creates, but also knows our future. He has written the story of our lives, every chapter, every verse, every word, before we've even lived them. So what does this mean for us? It means that we are not accidents, we are not products of chance, we are fearfully and wonderfully made by a God who knows us intimately, who loved us before we were even formed, who has a plan for our lives and who holds our futures in his hands. We are not just creations, we are his creations, each one of us unique, loved, known and held by the Creator God. Closing, we are fearfully and wonderfully made by God. He knew us even before we were born. Have you ever wondered about the thoughts of God towards us? As we delve deeper into the Psalms, we find an answer in Psalms 139, verses 17 and 18. These verses are a beautiful testament to the enormity of God's love and concern for us. The psalmist, David, writes, "How precious to me are your thoughts, God, how vast is the sum of them." Imagine that the thoughts of the Creator of the universe, the one who set the stars in the sky and designed every blade of grass, directed towards us. The word precious here is not merely an adjective, it's an expression of the invaluable, priceless nature of God's thoughts towards us. They are not fleeting or casual, but considered and purposeful. They're akin to a skilled craftsman meticulously crafting a masterpiece, or a composer carefully arranging notes into a symphony. And then David goes on to say, "How vast is the sum of them." The magnitude of God's thoughts towards us is beyond comprehension. If we were to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. Picture yourself on a beach picking up a handful of sand. Each grain, tiny and seemingly insignificant, represents a thought God has towards you. Now, imagine the countless grains of sand on that beach in the world, and you begin to grasp the enormity of God's thoughts. This is an incredible revelation of God's personal, intimate love for us. He doesn't merely know us, his thoughts towards us are as numerous as the grains of sand. They are not random or disorganized, but intricately interwoven, forming a tapestry of divine love, care, and purpose. David marvels at this, and so should we, for it's not just about the quantity, but the quality of God's thoughts towards us, precious, priceless, vast, and unending. This is a testament of God's love, a love that is personal, intimate, and beyond comprehension. God's thoughts towards us are precious and outnumber the grains of sand. Let us marvel at this, let us soak in this truth, and let it shape our understanding of God's love for us. How should we respond to those who misuse God's name and rebel against him? As we delve into the final passages of Psalms 139, verses 19 to 24, we are confronted with the psalmist's stark response to those who misuse God's name and rebel against his divine authority. Here, the psalmist expresses a profound disdain, a deep-seated aversion, even hatred for those who oppose God. He sees them as enemies, not because of personal grievances, but due to their disrespect and rebellion against the Almighty. The psalmist's response might seem severe to some, yet it's a reflection of his profound love and reverence for God. His loyalty to God is so intense that he cannot tolerate those who blaspheme God's holy name or rebel against his authority. He sees their actions as a direct affront to the God he loves and serves. But then in the midst of this righteous indignation, the psalmist does something extraordinary. He turns the spotlight on himself. He invites God to search his heart, to test him, and to know his anxious thoughts. He requests God to see if there is any offensive way in him, and to lead him in the way everlasting. This is a profound act of humility and surrender. The psalmist recognizes that just like those he despises, he too is capable of falling short of God's glory. So he invites God's scrutiny not out of fear, but out of a desire to be aligned with God's will. He wants to ensure that his heart is pure, his thoughts are aligned with God's, and his actions are in line with God's ways. This should serve as a powerful reminder for us. We must not only stand against those who rebel against God, but also constantly examine our own hearts and lives. We must desire God's guidance and correction, just like the psalmist did. May we, like the psalmist, desire God to search our hearts and lead us in his way.